Up next here, we've got Warren Ward here to tell us about the Canola 4R Advantage program. So he's an agronomy specialist with the Canola Council of Canada. He joined the council in 2013 and covers the Northeast Territory in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Warren grew up on a mixed farm in southern Saskatchewan and graduated from the U of S with a BSc in agriculture in 2004. So he's based in Yorkton now, and he's involved in a small mixed farming operation. He is the team lead for canola fertility, physiology, and safety. He works with the crop production and innovation team, Canola, industry representatives, and producers in eastern Saskatchewan to deliver timely agronomic advice. So please join me in welcoming Warren.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I'm Warren Ward, also very passionate about agriculture and in particular the canola industry. And you know, it's just unfortunate that when I tried to suggest we name our firstborn 5440, I was vetoed on that one. So yeah, I'm here. I've got a few minutes today just to give some quick highlights on our Canola 4R Advantage program. If you may not be as familiar with that name as the funding that it's coming from, which is the On-Farm Climate Action Fund. So I've got a few high points here that I'd like to hit today, and also some resources that you can click for or search for some additional information, because we're not going to be able to cover it all in a few minutes today. But so if we just a little bit of background on the program. So what we're looking at doing is advancing 4R nutrient stewardship practices, and by utilizing that pot of money that was made available through the federal government. We're one of 12 organizations that has received administers that funding. So there are a couple other ones that you can access it through in Saskatchewan as well. Ours differs a little bit from some of the other ones in that it's specific to canola and nitrogen management, whereas some of the other programs have nitrogen management, rotational grazing, and cover cropping as well. So a few little differences there. One point that I sometimes forget to mention, so I'm going to do it right now, is that you can access multiple programs. So you could access our program and the one offered through the watersheds, and as long as you're not applying for nitrogen management, for instance, on the same field, you can use both programs, but no double dipping. So the four BMPs that we chose to include in this program are soil testing, utilizing enhanced efficiency fertilizers, preferred application, which is really more about the timing of nitrogen application, and field zone mapping. And you know, we did kind of look at these from a 4R standpoint, and you know, like hearing about the uptake and removal numbers being updated, really important information, fits well into something like soil testing, which is one of those pillars of the right rate of 4R nutrient management. So another brief overview here on who's eligible. So again, farms that have that control the field. So you know, if there's a rent situation, you might want to double check with between the renter and the owner as to who would be wanting to apply for those on those acres. Have operational control of the field, so and then ability to make legally binding decisions on those fields. One other difference between our program and some of the other ones is that it does require the farm to have a 4R nutrient management plan specifically for those fields that are being applied for. So what that means is the farm has to work with a 4R designated agronomist, and who that is would be a certified crop advisor or a professional agrologist who has obtained their 4R designation. So that can be done a number of ways. One way is through the CCA program. Another one is through training offered by Fertilizer Canada. So there's a relationship there between the farm and the agronomist that is required, and not a bad thing to have anyway, but it is a requirement for participation in the program. One other note is that when you do receive funds through this program, it is a taxable expense, so just making folks aware of that. So a little closer look at the BMPs and what would be eligible within them. If we look at soil testing, this would involve the costs of collecting the soil samples, so in the field collecting the soil, as well as the lab analysis of those samples. Because we're focused on nitrogen management, it would be a basic package from an approved soil testing lab would be what is covered. So what that means, some labs will have more advanced packages if you want to look at different things, but usually that basic package is going to include a nitrate test, and that's because we're focused on nitrogen management, that would be the one that is covered. You could go over and above that, but it would, only the equivalent cost of a basic test would be covered. One other point on soil testing, a minimum of 12-inch soil sampling depth. I had a few questions around that one in the past, and because nitrogen is mobile in the soil, we want to make sure we're capturing that full profile. So we can go even deeper than 12 inches, but that is our minimum. With the enhanced efficiency fertilizers, so looking at the right source of nitrogen, if we're thinking in the 4R terms. So this would be an opportunity to look at using an enhanced efficiency product, whether that's a coated urea product such as ESN, or an inhibitor product that would contain nitrification and a urease inhibitor. So we've got those two inhibitor classes. Our preference would be that we could only need to use one, but because the funding is coming from the federal government, and Ag Canada has determined that we do have to have both inhibitors to be eligible. So if we're looking at the inhibitors, it would have to be a dual inhibitor product that is being used. The way those costs are determined would be, for a product like ESN or Super U, it would be the relative difference in cost between that product and urea is what would be eligible for coverage in the program. And if we're looking at additive products, something like, say Agritane Ultra, it would be the cost of that product to treat the nitrogen going on that field is what would be eligible. And with all of these practices, it's 85% of the total cost is what would be reimbursed, up to a maximum of $6,000 per practice, and you can choose 2 practices per year, so a total of $12,000 per year would be what could be covered. So any 2 of the BMPs up, and for a total cap of $12,000. So moving along and looking at preferred application, and I mentioned earlier that's more timing of nitrogen application. Looking at moving from fall application of nitrogen to a spring banded, or a combination of spring banded and top dressed in the growing season. The reason for that is because the program did evolve from funds to reduce nitrous oxide emissions, and we do know that fall applied nitrogen does have a greater risk of emissions than spring or in-season applications. So that is one way of trying to mitigate that. Not that, personally I don't have a lot of problems with a well done fall application of nitrogen if we're banding at the right time, getting it into the soil, but there are environmental regulations if we go beyond just implications if we go just beyond the agronomics of that practice. And last but not least, looking at zone management. So there are funds available as well to cover some of the costs of working with the organizations that are helping generate those zones for variable rate management. Again, this is one where it's that specific cost of generating and coming up with those field maps is what is eligible. For instance, if you're working with an advisor that's doing the soil sampling, generating the maps and the prescriptions for application, that might need to be broken out into a couple of different BMPs, because we'd cover one under the soil testing and then another under the consultant fees for generating those maps. So lots of little details there. I will be around if we do have any more questions, but one thing I really wanted to hit home on today is that we've got some deadlines fast approaching. So February 17th is our intake deadline for starting the process or submitting the application for our program. Because it's federal funds, there's March 31st is a big deadline in terms of when that funding will disappear on us. So we do want to make sure we have time to process any of the applications that come in. So February 17th would be our deadline to get the process started. Now, as I mentioned, you do have to have a 4R plan to receive funds through our program, but that doesn't mean you have to have that plan in place to start that application process. You can start that application process without having a 4R plan, but there is a window of opportunity there where you will have to get that 4R plan in place, working with that designated agronomist so that you would receive the funds that you're applying for. Other than that, another deadline coming up at the end of February would be to submit. Now, once your application's been approved, then you go and submit your expenses and receipts to start the reimbursement process. So again, that one's coming up at the end of February as well. One interesting one that I really just sank in for me this morning, actually, reading an email, is that if you've done some fall soil testing last year for this upcoming crop year, we would like to get that included in the 2022 funding application. So if you've done some soil testing and you are hoping or thinking about getting it on the program, now would be a great time to start that application process, because even though it's for the 2023 crop year, we would want to see that included in applications for 2022. So also, yeah, if you're an agronomist, agronomists or farmers can start the application process on behalf of the farm, because there is that close working relationship throughout the program between the two, the farm and the agronomist. Either one can start the application, of course, with permission of the other one, and get the process rolling that way as well. So if you're an agronomist, having some of those last conversations quickly with some of your customers might be warranted, or if your farm is looking at potentially being involved in the program, I would say for 2022 anyway, time is running out. A lot of details there, probably a few more that I didn't cover. We've got some great resources on our online here for you if you have questions, or you can catch me throughout the next little while as well. But yeah, I'd encourage you to get the phone out and just load the web page and have a look at it here when you get an opportunity. But with that, I don't know if we've got time for any questions, but I'll be around throughout lunch, so by all means, catch me when you can. Thank you.
Any questions for Warren? If not, my watch is showing 12:01, so we'll look at reconvening at 12:45, and hope everybody has a good lunch. Thank you.